We're back with another episode of This Could Work, the podcast where we celebrate creative risk-taking and those shaping the future of brands. I'm your host, Will Trowbridge, founder and CEO of the creative agency Sailor. Today on the pod, we have Abby Ho, who went from working in HR to leading world-class digital campaigns for Netflix and Disney. She's currently VP of Social, Digital, and Audience Engagement at Disney-branded television, leading how fans discover, connect with, and stay engaged with Disney franchises like Percy Jackson, Bluey, and Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. She's also the author of Fellow Kids, a newsletter that demystifies Gen Alpha and Gen Z culture and trends. Hi, Abby. Welcome to This Could Work. Literally 2 seconds ago, you told me this is your first ever podcast. So how does it feel?
I'm excited and just happy to catch up with you, honestly. It's been a while. I think the last time I saw you was at like the Gemmas or something in real life. So this is actually really great to get a chance to Zoom with you.
I know. Well, I'm so happy you're here and great to see you. I don't know if you ever told me this, but I did some deep diving into your history and learned that you started in HR. And I need us to start there.
Wow, I'm surprised that exists anywhere, to be very honest with you. Like, you must have really gone in deep with your research. So good on you and your team. I was a business graduate. So I did one of those general, business commerce majors where I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And I always knew I was really fascinated with people. I loved getting to understand behavioral psychology, organizational business, and then I got a really great internship with an on-campus role where I was actually working in food service, which is like crazy. I worked for like one of these large food service companies and was an intern in HR. So I was helping recruiting programs for front of house and back of house restaurants, which also crazy thing. I was completely unqualified, had never worked in a restaurant before in my life, doing HR programs for this. So I did that helped pay my way through university, really.
Did you go to Wattpad next? And that's kind of what introduced you to the nonfiction? What fill in the gap?
Yeah. So, so I'm from Canada. I think we've chatted about this.
Mm-hmm.
So in Canada, there's really not much of an entertainment scene.
Right.
So during my university years, during HR, this internship, all these things,
Mm-hmm.
I also was doing what we called like a on-campus job when I was at university, where I was actually organizing parties for films that would come into town to university cities. And I would just organize parties. And I was like, it was like
That's
the best.
So fun.
No, it was honestly the most amazing thing. It was like, once every quarter, you would just organize big frat parties for like dodgeball or something like that. Which I did.
I kind of had a similar gig. I went to school in Vermont where similarly not a lot of entertainment rolling through Vermont. And so we would host kind of like these big screening events for like theatrical movies that were making it big in Hollywood in Vermont. And I'd make sure that they get all the way up there and then get the group together. And then, of course, they'd lead to an obscene amount of drinking and partying and debauchery after. So
it's the original.
Weird. I love
original
that.
Influencers. Like that was the original like grassroots influencer work, right? Like no, oh my gosh, that's so funny. Which which publicity or like
oh my god, I totally forget what they was, but I actually ran I started with a friend, the UVM Film Club, and that's what kind of inspired all these screenings. We like coordinated with with local
crazy
theatrical teams and things like that, and just would make these kind of more student focused screening events on campus.
Oh my gosh, what a small world. Okay, well, that's very funny. And that's probably why you've also pursued something so entrepreneurial now too. Like you clearly know how to self-start. I mean, for me, the short answer is that I did that and I was like, oh my gosh, I love entertainment. Like this is really what I want to do. And I thought maybe PR would actually be where I would go. And then there were just no roles, like nothing out of university, couldn't find anything. And then I cold called actually a bunch of different places. So I ended up at a place called Epitome Pictures, which is actually the producers of a TV show called Degrassi. Have you heard of the TV show Degrassi?
Of course,
So like Drake, Nina Dobrev, like that whole crew of people graduated at that franchise. So I started there and I ultimately cold called, ended up with a job there. They were like, hey, you can help us fill finance paperwork and help us with, production grants and whatnot because of my business degree. I did that for a few months and I was like, absolutely not for me. I'm not interested in doing finance and loans. But it gave me this remarkable foundation on how TV is made. How do you fund it? How do you produce it? What are the stakeholders involved in making those decisions, and how you work with networks to even get closed deals. And then ultimately, a few months later, I was like, I'm just going to shoot some stuff. Like, let me just create a community for it. There was Twitter at the time. Like, I was in a, right place, right time kind of place as well, back when YouTube just launched. So I started filming videos. I pitched a job to the EP at the time, Stephen Stone. And I told him, I was like, hey, like, if you give me a shot, I will help you create a fandom. I will help bring this fandom that you have into a social space. This is what it would look like. These are the videos I can make you. And ultimately, it created a community online.
Yeah, early days, way before social is really kind of like being monetized at scale, before it's really understood kind of like the power of community and fandom. Of course, those exist, but they're just more kind of fragmented than they were, in the early 2010s.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So I was working in like TV production, but running our digital and social arm at Degrassi. So that was 2009, and I stayed there for about 5 years. And then I moved over to the Canadian Broadcasting Company, the CBC, where I was then responsible for launching what we called our creator network. I was there to help create a pipeline of Canadian content creators that would allow us to have better relationships with, these different communities and create short form video. I worked on Olympics, I worked on sports, a lot of different projects. Cool. And then I was there for a number of years, and then went to Wattpad. So that's when I joined Wattpad, where I was running their what we called STARS program, which was early days Wattpad Studios. So Wattpad Studios was looking to create entertainment projects, etc. And they needed someone that would lead talent development efforts, which was what I was doing. So I would work with identifying top performing writers on the platform and help them broker and migrate into long form film deals, TV deals, publishing deals. And I did that for a very short amount of time before Netflix for 4 years, and now here at Disney.
So my history is Disney first and then Netflix. So we went reverse. But I think it's become such a big part of who I am, the kind of mix of those two cultures and those two types of companies, and the type of their approach to leadership and their approach to creative is uniquely different, but also has similarities in a lot of ways.
I want to know what your perspective is, having now lived both sides of the coin too. Like, what's your similarities and differences, and what's your take?
So now I'm like all three sides of the coin, because I'm like,
true. Yes, you have so many sides.
I mean, my experience, I started really early on in my career at Disney. So I kind of had my whole early education from a entertainment perspective, from a social perspective, all through the lens of Disney IP. And like Disney IP, as you know, is like, has the most incredible fandoms. Like I used to joke about it with my colleagues back at Disney, is like, you could make anything and it would get 1 million views. But like in those early days, we could make almost anything and it would just reach the masses. And this was like me when I was like 25. And I was like, this is just what social and like is. Like, you just make things and everyone's obsessed with them. So anyway, my experience from that, which is like working with the biggest franchises in the world, the biggest characters and IP in the world, to then working on Netflix when it was like one of the most innovative, entertainment studios, still is. It's just like they had different superpowers, and I got to really stretch across all those different opportunities and work with the best of their class in each respect. So I really value both those chapters.
I always say this, like every company is an organism the same way, like, your career is too, right? Like, it kind of continues to shift, and like the bigger, external factors as well, internal factors. I'd say like when we were at Netflix, that company that we were at doesn't exist in the same way anymore, right? Like the culture has evolved the same way Disney's culture has really evolved and transformed. And I think it's such a unique perspective to have when you were on like sort of the rising tide of both of those. It must have been such a jarring experience for you to jump from like that really lateral, linear thing at Disney to then what Netflix was at the time, which was like everybody's elbows out together.
Totally.
Like it was very, and I don't mean like elbowing each other. It was just like, it was a push each other to like make sure you're really like reaching the audience in the most honest way. Like, how do you put the fans in the center of this? Not not the brand at the center, right? Like it was such a reverse thing. And having now lived in both sides, like just how advanced and how ahead of the time Netflix was in that philosophy, that fan-centered philosophy, is something that I think like I take with me forever. Like it was like going to university. It was like the best thing.
Oh, I totally agree. So you went from a, move fast and break things mentality at Netflix to Disney, which is 100 years old by the time you got there. I'm curious, like if there was a moment in the early days where things kind of clicked and you're like, this is how you get things done at Disney.
That's such a great question. I mean, I'll say that actually took me a little while.
Yeah.
I think when at Netflix was very much like a self-starter culture, a very like, what levers can you lift? What chips can you play? And what innovation can you bring to the table? Whereas when you work with a brand or audiences as beloved as, like as much as they care and love these brands that we work on, like on the Disney side, you have a different responsibility, and a different expectation that the audiences have to your projects and your IP. So you do have to move more intentionally. You do have to think a lot deeper about the different like verticals across the company. I think that took me a while, like truly did. I would say at least, a year or two,
Can you walk us through how like a creative idea typically moves from the concept stage to something that audiences actually see? Like, is that something that you and your team are owning a lot of that conceptual work? Are you working with agencies?
Yeah, I mean, I think everything is definitely a team sport, like truly. And I don't mean it in like the cliche way. I mean it genuinely, like everybody's perspective. So for instance, like we work with our strategy group. There's a paid media team. There's a publicity team. There's of course our social group. There's our creative and AV and design teams. So there's a lot of different stakeholders in order to build something to the scale or to the scope of these campaigns. Whereas, I don't think I recognized how many different levers there are within an organization like Disney until having started to work here.
Okay, so Percy Jackson, I'm kind of obsessed. So Kevin Prince and I don't know if you listened to our episode, but we were completely glazed over talking about the Percy Jackson billboard that was like
amazing.
The most social out of home ever made. It looked like a water park. But anyway, I'm just like, I want to hear about that.
Yeah, I mean, first off, I want to just shout out the team that was responsible for that out-of-home design work was actually our experiences team. I wish I could take responsibility for that pitch. That was all Teresa Travis and her group. She shout out to Teresa Travis. Like, please do give her a big shout out. Just absolutely brilliant work. So their concept was at the time, like we were looking for sort of like, what's our big swing? Like, what is that big breakthrough moment that goes beyond, like has to take your phone out moment, right?
Yeah.
And that was, what they put on the table. And I remember even seeing it at the concept stage. We were like, okay, like you can visualize it. You can sort of see the idea, right? But in real life, it was just so much bigger. Like that splash effect was so insane. Like there's literally like a 10-meter splash radius.
Oh
like,
my God.
It was
sound.
Yeah, there was like a legit mark line where they were like, please do not pass this line because you will get wet. It was remarkable work.
I mean, what's fun about that is you even talking about like being there in person. I never saw it in person. I only saw it on social. And I think it still had that effect, which I think is like really the multiplier here is like you don't have to experience something like a billboard in Los Angeles. I don't even know where it was. Was it in Los Angeles?
It was. It was.
And it went everywhere. It's a global impact. So rad.
It is insane how big that went. And you're so right. It's like, what is the travelability of it? Like,
Totally.
what is the shock factor? And it's so hard to get people excited about, you know, static work. So for Percy Jackson, actually, where we were at with that campaign was, you know, we had a really remarkable international global campaign already built for season 2, and then we were looking for like, what are the ways to continue to push this needle forward. So we actually, at that same time, we had, you know, of course, that out of home splash zone billboard, and then we also had, you know, a CGI stunt where we were created tentacle illusions of the Sea of Monsters. Which the season 2 is about Sea of Monsters. So we had a tentacles that sort of would feed break in each city that the cast was going to be on tour during their international tour. So we had, you know, the Sea of Monsters tentacle break through the London Bridge. We had it show up in Sao Paulo, and we had it show up in, you know, so it was a really amazing, you know, digital stunt activation at the time too there. And then we also layered in the out of home billboard. So it was like a lot all at once. And we were like, how do we break through all the different ways that people will come across Percy Jackson? Like, is it a narrative? Is it in world? Is it, you know, through the talent? Is it through, you know, leveraging our global footprint from all of our different Disney Plus partners? Is it also through a real life experience? So we really kind of pulled on all of those levers.
All right, we have to talk about the High School Musical TikTok digital stunt. I don't know what to call it, but it was like, I remember reading about it when it happened. It was just like, Disney just put all of High School Musical on TikTok.
So that was actually not the first time we did a sort of a TikTok stunt, but it was the first time we'd done a full feature film, and the first time we'd done it on Disney Plus TikTok. So again, shout out to the Disney Plus TikTok and social media team. So Jenna Hamburger and team, you know, thank you to them for their... Jenna's the best. Also snaps to Jenna. She's the best. We were originally thinking about having that tactic happen on our Disney Channel social handles, which is under our portfolio. But, you know, late in the game, we were like, this makes more sense coming from the Disney Plus handles and really makes more sense for the audience. We cut it in 52 parts. And I'm trying to remember, I'm just going to actually try to find the numbers. I don't remember where at last count we were, because I think it was actually way higher than 30 million.
Wow.
It was in the hundreds of millions, if I remember correctly.
This was for the 20th anniversary, right? So
Correct.
It's all through a nostalgic lens. Anyway, we're looking back and we're kind of doing the original film honors here. So does that lead kind of to the strategy of thinking about like, this is a new way of experiencing an old favorite? What kind of led you to the idea?
I would say it's a lot more nuanced than that. In terms of like, the way I see it is that High School Musical, and actually all of the Disney IP, I always say is remarkably timeless. And I'm not saying this because I work here. I'm saying it as like a consumer. Like legitimately, it holds up. Like it's not, it really holds up.
I read my 2.5-year-old a freaking Aladdin book every night. I'm like,
that's what I mean.
Aladdin book? I'm like, this story is completely timeless. You know,
Correct.
It doesn't matter that it was in the 90s or whatever. It's like, it works for a 2026 2.5-year-old.
No, that's exactly it, right? So I mean, so the way we came at it from a social lens, specifically on our team, we were thinking through like, okay, well, this is a new discovery entry point too, right? So it's not only for the millennials, the nostalgic millennials, right, who maybe watched it the first time it came out, but it's really about making sure that people are discovering this now, or they can review it now with their sibling, or maybe their parent now. So we were using it as like an entry point.
Nice.
And our strategy for all of this was, how do you recontextualize things that we know work? We know this like Zach and Vanessa still sound and look great in this movie. So how do we make sure that people see and discover it for the first time, or relive what they loved?
And was each kind of clip, all 52 pieces, was each clip thought of strategically? Like this is a full song, or they're not all even 90 seconds or something like that. So it's all very shareable in their own right.
Correct. Yeah, we tried our best. We tried our best to make logical and shareable scene moments, but we kind of came at it from like, how do we make this as discoverable as possible? and drive as much engagement around it as possible.
People love Zach and Vanessa. You know you're going to reach people because you have Zach and Vanessa and you have this beloved song. But like for so many brands, they don't have that existing fandom and they don't have that existing IP. I'm curious how you think about that, and maybe if there are any sort of like tried and true staples of like an entertainment approach that would apply to even the most boring brand out there that has no IP or it has no existing fandom.
I would love to hear your answer. I mean, my direct answer would be like, at the end of the day, it's about storytelling and finding a way to connect with humans. And I kind of come back to that first thing I said in the beginning, which is like the thing that makes me the most excited, the thing that gives me the most energy on a personal level is truly just being like, what makes people interested? What makes people lean in? Like, what makes people stop? Why did someone, respond in that way to X, right?
Right.
And I think at the end of the day, like anything you do, like you could be selling a TV show, you could be selling the best TV show, you could be selling the best movie. But if you are just sort of like, here's my movie, or like, here's a great piece of, here's a great photo that there's no context to it and it's not interesting, like that's not going to sell, right? At the end of the day, it comes down to like, what is the human and relevant kind of thing that you're hooking into? Why would it matter to me? Like, what does it represent to me if I use this lip balm, right? What does it say about me? Or what makes your lip balm different, right?
Yeah.
So that's something you think about as a marketer and as a brand. I think there's always a way in, but it really does come from a human standpoint.
Yeah, it's like, what kind of human outcome do you want? I think that like, when I talk about entertainment kind of strategies within advertising, it's easy to go to like a kind of celebrity place or like it's a partnership with a film or whatever. It's like, no. Like it's about like making sure your advertising has entertainment value for consumers.
Yes.
I remember at Netflix, we always talked about chips. Like, how much chips does Netflix have? Like if you're going to put something out there that ultimately like pushes all your chips in, it's a huge risk, and you might not like have any chips left if it goes wrong. So like if you're going to like go out there and just like ask for like your subscription's going up and you're going to ask for more money and you're not like bringing them anything in value in return, then they may have a problem with you or they may unsubscribe or whatever. So I think it's about like actually making sure that each piece of content has real value to the consumer. And that 100%. To me, it shows up as entertainment, and especially social media, let alone advertising.
Exactly. And it's earning it, right? Like it's really just like, I think social media is such a funny thing because it's like you need to be entertained on social media, right? So you do want things that are like relevant to you. You expect it to be, quick and kind of makes you feel something. Like in order to stand out really at the end of the day is like, you need to really understand who you're talking to. Like, who are you trying to reach and trying to be something to that person? And it's really much more one-to-one now. And I think really great brands are understanding that. And how do you create great personal kind of one-to-one things and create a system and a framework that can be scalable around that, right? Like it's like let's use the billboard example, right? Like that to me is like you get a big feeling, but then everybody felt like, they were there, right?
Evoked the excitement and the energy and the feeling of the IP too. Like, I think it's like, oh, I get it. That's going to be a really exciting series, So I do think that it even had some storytelling in there.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
It definitely has storytelling in it.
Maybe we can spend like 5 minutes talking about fellow kids, because you just need to like explain it, because I'm reading it as a consumer and I find it incredibly valuable as a marketer. But I want to hear kind of what you were intending by creating your Fellow Kids Substack, and ultimately how you found it. How do you find writing it every week?
Yeah. So I write a Substack and LinkedIn, a blog ultimately called Fellow Kids. And I started it mainly because I felt like there was a misunderstanding of our younger generation. And what I mean by that is it's not, I'm really trying to act as a translator for our younger community, from a corporate and from a like older, marketing executive. And I felt, and what I meant by misunderstanding is I felt that there's a sort of a pre-existing notion that like younger generations are like, they don't have the attention spans, or like, they're not reachable, or they're like only into AI slop. And
they're
I was
jaded.
like,
they're just like out of touch. They don't care about the world.
Yeah. Or the opposite, where it's like, they're overcorrecting, being like, oh, they're too sensitive. They're like, so, they're like only chronically online, etc. And I was like, okay, some of these, I guess stereotypes are true, but there's more nuance to this. And there's a real, I come from it very much like as a person who likes to ask why. So when I started writing this, it really came from a place of just not seeing any other voices talk about kids and about teens, to understand why they behave this way. Why do they care about things? Why is there a reaction? You would sort of see the symptoms to things being like, okay, kids are not, I'm trying to think of an example, like kids are not going to the movies anymore, or some kind of like, let's just say there's some sort of
statement. There's
sort of these big catastrophic headlines. And I was like, but why? And what does that actually mean when you see that headline? And then that was something I just loved diving into. It's like when I write things, it's more of a vantage point of like, this is currently what's going on, and this is the why this is happening. And then, like diving in a little bit deeper to being like, I think this is where this leads us next, right? These are the things that could, like, what are the factors that lead to, this end result, right? So there's sort of like reading the tea leaves in some ways, but primarily it really comes down to like, why are they behaving this way? And what are things we can do about right sizing or creating policies, or creating, better safeguards, or better understanding the mental space that the kids and families are coming from, that allow us to, be more intentional in how we reach them and how we talk to them.
Yeah. Curiosity at its core. Yeah, I love it. Anything on the horizon you want to talk about or kind of shout out?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to shout out like the Hannah Montana special, the 20th anniversary was just so remarkable. And I think like, again, that kind of goes to the point where it's like when you work with great franchise, great IP, that really means something to people. Like, yeah, I know, right? Oh my gosh, you saw that piece, right? You saw that one?
Yeah. The wand, it's iconic.
So good. Yeah. I mean, I think that's like one of the big campaigns, like really a highlight to my career too. Like I was just like, how getting to work with something, work on something that means so much to the childhood of so many millions of people. So
super, super cool. And congratulations on everything, Abby. Thank you so much for joining me and spending the time. It's so good to see you and reconnect.
This Could Work is a production of Sailor Creative Agency and hosted by Will Trowbridge, the CEO and founder. The show is executive produced by Ray Vada and produced and edited by Corey Lubowich. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.